Welcome to this first RIAS Voices slot. And our very first RIAS voice is Gordon Murray. Many of you will know him as a practitioner, teacher, writer, thinker, and actually a past president of RIAS. So I thought he would be an excellent start for this series. It's a Proust questionnaire format, and so I'll just be asking questions and trying not to follow up with further questions. So that so the first off is, why did you become an architect?
Thank you for inviting me, Karen. I became an architect because at school I adored drawing with a T-square, a set square, and cartridge paper, and I still do. I also at school found in a small corner of the school library a book, Peter Blake's Mies van der Rohe Architecture and Structure, a small penguin book from 1960, and I was smitten. And I've been reading books like that ever since.
Why do you think our work matters?
I think it matters because we are advocates for a broader view than just the view of the architect. O'Varup, in a talk in 1970, talked about the advice of the architect very much being needed in public places in order that someone is looking after the views of the ordinary person. And if architects weren't doing that, then nobody was likely to do that. I think that has established a view that I think has pervaded architecture in the sense that people now look at it as a vehicle more for doing other things, like about advocacy or enabling, rather than simply about building buildings.
What gives you most pleasure in the job?
I think the idea of being an enabler. I mean, in a long career, I've been a draftsman, a designer, a manager, an editor, hopefully a craftsman. But I think enabling things to happen, enabling change and effecting positive change, I think is central to what I would consider to be the architect's job. I think part of that is design teaching. Design teaching, I think, is totally different from normal forms of teaching. It's about creativity and synthesis in the sense that you have to take often competing points of view and actually bring them together with a different outcome.
Yeah, and that leads on to, what have you done that you're most proud of?
Well, I think still in that vein, I think it would be in regard to our architectural education, really. I think I still find architects incredibly altruistic in their thinking and incredibly generous with their time. And for me, watching students grow both in practice and in academia, I think is an important part of my job, and it's certainly an important interest and one that I'm particularly pleased with.
And in your opinion, what's the biggest challenge that the profession faces?
I think that the biggest challenge that we face is being relevant. I think we've been relevant in the past, but that has been obfuscated or diluted by a number of competing interests. As Hermann Hertzberger once said, we no longer are buried next to the king. I think we need to basically use the skills that we have in order to actually try and get back to a position of having enough people listening to what we're saying and us listening to what other people are saying, in order to make sure that people hear our voice and they can then take that message to other people that may be more accessible to that than we can get.
And what advice would you give your younger self starting out?
Well, basically, develop a resilience, because I don't think that the architectural career is necessarily one that is going to last a lifetime. Hopefully it'll last a lifetime, but I think so many things influence us now that change is almost inevitable, and therefore you have to be prepared to think about change. I suggested maybe learning a musical instrument in order, if the worst happens, you can do something else. But I think it is about a resilience, but equally recognising that architecture is a long game, and you have to be able to have the resilience and the durability to look at it as a long game, and that doesn't leave an awful lot of opportunity for a career change later in life.
Yeah. Why do you think having an organisation like RIAS is important?
I think if we're going to be relevant, and I definitely think we must be, we have to talk as an organisation. We have to speak not with one voice, but certainly with a multiplicity of voices, but with a common purpose, a common aim, so that it's not one particular view being expressed. But the RIAS, I think, is an organisation, has the expertise and the adaptability and ability to speak to a wider audience than we can as individuals, and in that way get our voice heard, and also with that expertise within the staff, have enough knowledge to support the profession as a whole.
And finally, a light one. What's your favourite place?
My favourite place outside Glasgow has to be Venice. I went there as a school child, just after Venice in peril, when it was the worst flooding Venice had experienced in its history, 1967, I think it was. And I've been returned in 1999, and I've been travelling back there ever since. One of the early trips after 1999 was to take the chief architect of the Scottish Government to try and convince the Scottish Government that we should actually take Scotland to the Venice Biennale. I think Venice is important because it is a compendium of what is great about space and vistas and the sense of space that cities can have, and also that the cities that are resilient can have. Thank
you very much indeed. It's been really lovely hearing your answers, and it's just we can't have longer. So many thanks.
Thank you.